What's up, guys? So this is not the complete Q&A answers video. This is a one-off from one of the questions. My man S. Lee 2695 asked, what has lifting meant for you? How important has it been in your life? How has it shaped it, good and bad? And if I recall, S. Lee 2695 hasn't always been a fan of mine. I'm wanting to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you first came across me when me and Alex were beefing back in like 2017, and I don't think you were a fan of mine. And a lot of our interactions early on weren't very positive, but I'm glad we can be here today and grow as individuals. So what has lifting meant for me? It's become a staple, a cornerstone. I haven't always been very driven and motivated. I was lost, very lackadaisical at points in my life early on. Didn't know what I wanted. Didn't really have motivation to be very productive. I would work and pay the bills, and whatever's left over was party time. So lifting in itself didn't change everything. But it was kind of an early catalyst of, seeing productivity lead to results. And I don't think I quite recognized, maybe at the time, that was there. But it was certainly planting the seeds back then that if you work at something, and even back then, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. From like this modern standpoint where we have all these, programs and studies and gurus and everything out there, and just access to all this information. I didn't know that, but just the nose to the grindstone, because that's what we benched 5 days a week. I've told the story a bunch of times. We just fucking benched heavy, often to failure every fucking day, and my bench shot through the roof, of course. And so it kind of, like I said, planted that seed within me of what hard work can do in terms of seeing results and the fruits of your labor. Whereas, my early working days, if you want to call it professionally, I was kind of hopping around from, retail jobs. I worked in a restaurant for a little bit. I didn't like that. So I hopped around retail jobs for a long time. Then I had my own furniture moving business at one point with my brother. It was kind of given to us, we didn't start it from the ground up or anything. We were given it like a running business, and it was a side business for the people that had it. But we noticed, there's a little bit more money to be made. But even then, we only did it 2 days a week, sometimes 3. And we're 19 years old, and on days weeks we'd work 3 days a week. Sometimes, depending upon the job we did, we would have, $1,200 to $1,500 each in our pockets in cash. We weren't licensed or anything. We did it under the table. And we're talking about back in 2004, 2005. To come home with $1,200 cash in a week back then. And being young, and to have 5 days a week off, we partied our asses off. And that's something we both look back now, that was kind of an opportunity that we squandered, early on, and we both went through dark times after that. But that's at least early on, my earliest lifting. The seeds were planted there that, at bare minimum, hard work and hard effort, and actually applying yourself, can lead to results. So that kind of, set the tone, not the standard, but set the tone, for, the years that would come after it. I ended up, I got a pretty good job opportunity, because of my dad, hooray, nepotism. But it involved me taking an initial pay cut, because I was working for another furniture moving company at the time, during the day, and I was selling shoes at night. But even the furniture moving company, my boss, it was a small business. He offered me a raise to stay because I was the supervisor and I was like literally the only full time employee. And I worked, I was lucky to get 1 day off a month. So getting offered a Monday through Friday 8 to 5, even at a little bit less pay, but I was moving to an area with a lower cost of living, was very enticing. So that's what I ended up doing. But it set the tone for that work ethic. And I was, even before I got the job opportunity I got, like I said, I was moving furniture during the day, selling shoes at night, working pretty much every day, every month. And if I did get a day off, I just slept all day. It put that work, and that was, when shit started to turn around for me in my life. My attitude changed a lot. And a lot of it stemmed off of that. Like it instilled that confidence boost for sure. Like, ego, inflated head, walking into any room, knowing if, the conversation arose that my bench penis number was going to be bigger than your bench penis number. So that there was that there. And yeah, that's kind of, tone setting, set the tone. As we progressed a little bit with lifting, and life progressed, I ended up finding powerlifting. Right around the same time, me and my wife, or my soon-to-be ex-wife, got pregnant. And it was exciting at first. And I got really good really fast. And again, ego also got really big there. That led to some shenanigans on here, as I alluded to earlier. Me and Alex beefing back in the day. So that was kind of a thing. When I was at my peak, powerlifting and athletically, if you want to say that, even when I played sports when I was a kid, I was an asshole. Like on the field, on the court, on the diamond, whatever the case may be. I was always pretty good at sports. Depending upon the sport, I was either one of the best ones out there, or I was, good enough to be in that, next tier down from the elite. And I talked shit, and I was dirty, and I didn't like, even if they were my friends, like, and we were playing pickup basketball, not even like an organized game. If we were playing pickup basketball against my best friend, when we were playing against each other, I didn't fucking like him. And I talk shit and I'd throw elbows, and that's, I was an asshole. Very, very fucking competitive. I've always been very competitive. And I carry a mean streak about me when I compete. And, I carry that with me onto YouTube. I'm very, very much warm-hearted these days and more open-minded. But back then, I carried that air of confidence and arrogance with me, and I had the numbers to back it up. I had the lifts to back it up. I was better than you, and I would tell you I was better than you, and I would tell you you're a fucking idiot because you're doing it wrong. And that's not the best way to go about things. Maybe if you're a professional athlete and that's, what's carrying you to getting big paychecks and stuff. And especially if you can turn that switch off too. I had a hard time turning that switch off sometimes. I would bring that home with me. And when you've got a wife and kid at home, that's not the kind of attitude you want to bring to the house at all, and it certainly leads to problems. And I thought everything revolved around me. I was the breadwinner of the house, the provider. So I would go to work in the morning, go train after work, come home. I would expect a meal to be made, and there would be a meal there. And my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, I didn't have like, I need this exact meal, but she knew I wanted a protein, a carb, and a vegetable. And whether it be chicken and rice and broccoli, bro, or steak and asparagus and potatoes, or hamburger and fries and some steamed cauliflower or carrots on the side or a salad. And she accommodated, and I am and was very grateful for it. I didn't often express it at the time. That led to us separating in January of 2018. That was a big, slap in the face to me, for lack of a better term. Not slap in the face in the sense of I deserved the slap in the face. Let me say it that way. Like I deserved it. That one was on me for sure. And like I said, it was just I couldn't turn that switch off. That I had a hard time turning it off. And that's no way to be with your family. So in that sense, it was a negative at that point, of course. And we separated for 6 months. I ended up I went to therapy. We did marriage counseling. It was kind of a wake up and smell the roses type thing. And ultimatums were set, and it was it's going to be that, or it's going to be your family, and we need Dennis. We don't need Frigidi. We need Dennis. Dennis needs to be present at the house. We need more time with Dennis. There wasn't enough time with Dennis, and the time that was there was oftentimes Freaky D. It wasn't Dennis. And ultimately, it was an easy choice for me. I picked my family. That wasn't not a hard decision for me to make at all. It's not that I still couldn't train, but I was no longer training like afternoons after work with the crew anymore. I wasn't going like on the weekends during the day with the crew anymore. I'd find times like early mornings, Saturdays and Sundays, which I still do to this day, so as not to miss time with my family, while they were sleeping and stuff. And I bought a rack and some weights and a bar and stuff to put at work, which grateful that where I work, I have the leeway to have those things there, so I could train on my lunch break and stuff at work. But it was toned down, like not training with the crew. Like even like training with the crew was also, I got in that arrogant headspace, and we competed with each other in training. Particularly like me and Jordan, and then later Dustin came along, and we were all, I had a bigger total than all of them, but like Dustin had a bigger deadlift than me. Me and Jordan had a similar deadlift. I ended up, pulling 700, and he didn't, but he was also a little bit smaller than me. I had the biggest bench. Dustin was close to benching 500, but not quite there. Jordan benched, over 4 plates. And on squats, everybody sees me as a bencher, but I dominated on squats too. But a lot of the accessory movements and stuff, like me, Dustin, and Jordan were very close, and we would compete. With the accessories, which low key, if you can train with the crew, man, like that competition aspect, like built into main movements and secondary movements, and trying to outdo each other, leads to immense fucking gains. And if you can train with a crew, that is the fucking way to do it. But anyway, going to training solo, that shit goes away, and so I don't have to get in that arrogant competitive headspace when I'm training by myself. Every now and then I try to tap into it, but you try to visualize people around you and people there, and I film a lot of my training, so I know that it's going to go to a wider audience, but it's not quite the same as like when you're in the room, or when XYZ is going to be at a meet or something like that, and you want to out total them and these things, which ultimately, like for my mental health and being a reasonable person has been a lot better. Not feeling the need to always be in that hyper competitive headspace. There's a time and a place for it still. I'm not saying that it's always bad all the time to be in that space. There are times like professionally in whatever work field you may be in, or athletically, etc., or even if you're in a competitive hobby, there's times where that headspace can be there. I try not to go like full on 100% into it, because that is a it's a toxic place for me. There's a lot of potential there, of course, athletically, and if there was big money on the line or something like that, which at this point there's never going to be athletically for me anymore. Not there never was, but I justified it before just because that total was my big payday, like metaphorically. But there's really no need to go there, and it's not something that I want to entertain anymore. Very much, like I said, every now and then I'll tap and I'll go to that line, but I'm no longer wanting to step over that line. Whereas before, I would live across that fucking line. Like if there's a fence, I was fucking hopping over it or running the fuck through it. And like I said, that's just not a productive headspace for me to be in. As a functioning human being, because I'm not getting paid for this shit. This ain't my livelihood. It's not life or death. I don't depend on it for anything. I make some decent money on the side now coaching, but I don't have to go in that headspace to acquire clients or anything. So that was there. I say my soon-to-be ex-wife. We got back together and we stayed together from middle of 2018 until October of 2023, and us splitting up this time has nothing to do with lifting or anything. So I definitely, like I said, that toxic space I had to leave behind. So that's kind of some of the bad. But now where I'm at now and where I've been since then, like lifting is there. It's always there. It's a constant for me. I'm a creature of routine, of habit. I know the weights are always going to be there, or the training's always going to be there, even if it's cardio, if I'm going to walk in the park, if I'm going to lift weights, if I'm going to hit my heavy bag, it's there. Like exercise is there. I can always find that outlet. It's always there. Having that constant, that sort of, rock to lean on, is huge for me. So a lot of times, like, especially now that I am getting divorced, and when my son's with his mother, I get bored sometimes at the house, and I'm not really a go out and partier. I'm not super extroverted or anything. Like I can go out and have a good time, but that's rare and here and there. I'd much rather like have a close friend or two and just go hang out with them. But a lot of times out of boredom, like I'll just go to the gym and fucking do some cardio. I've actually been looking on Marketplace for an elliptical machine used to buy to have here at my house. So when I get bored, I can just hop on it here instead of having to drive to the gym every time. But yeah, it's a cornerstone for me at this point. It's not therapy. I don't think anybody should treat it as therapy. It's good for mental health, and it being there and being a part of your mental health routine. And I know mental health is cliche a lot of times at this point, it seems like, but it's very important. Mental health is very important. I can go on for days about that, but that's personal. But it is important for mental, but it's not therapy. It doesn't replace a therapist. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, the gym is my therapy." No, it's not your therapy. It's really not. Like I said, it helps. That physical release is great. The endorphins flowing, the clarity it gives you, just the physically exhausting yourself, and it can help you feel, give you that sense of accomplishment, giving you the sense of, that you've done something, you've been productive. And like I said, it helps with mental health. But please, if you're somebody who thinks you need therapy, the weight room ain't therapy, bro. Like, go see a fucking therapist. But it being there and being a cornerstone and always being something I can lean on and rely on, like I said, even in a state of boredom, just to go do something, is huge for me. The sense of routine, the waking up in the morning and hitting the elliptical machine before work, or like my son now, like during the school year, I'll take him and we'll go do like 15-20 minutes of cardio before he goes to school, and before I go to work. And he even like days we skip it. I generally like on Mondays is the day we would skip it, and I told him the importance of having a day off sometimes. He's like, "Oh man, we should have gone to the gym today, Dad." But yeah, and he, he's also a creature of habit too. So that's what it is for me nowadays. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to have productive habits in the world we live in, where there's very easily accessible habits and patterns that are detrimental to our physical, mental, and spiritual health. Having a set habit, and not necessarily a routine even, we'll just call it a habit, that's there. It just, it gives you that, that otherwise, like I said, other habits, where they would be negative towards you, and not, provide anything to you. This does, both short term and long term. So I think it's fantastic, and I am glad that that first time I lifted a weight. I'm glad the first time I uploaded a YouTube video, and ended up finding out about like powerlifting and lifting as a whole. I'm glad for social media, that without it I probably wouldn't have gone all the way down the path that I have. I started down it without social media, but I don't know that I would have pursued it the way I did had social media not been a thing and kind of directed me in different directions. So yeah, I think that pretty well kind of sums up what lifting is for me. Good, bad, and everything in between. My man Esley 2695. I appreciate you sticking around all these years, even after our rocky beginnings, and I appreciate the thoughtful question. I'm glad you asked. Glad to make this video. Peace.